Tragedy is not unique to Connecticut, but is felt deeply when it hits home. Recently, two Bristol police officers, Lieutenant Dustin Demonte and Sgt. Alec Hamzy, were ambushed and murdered, while a third, Officer Alec Iurato, was wounded before taking down the gunman. This sent shockwaves of grief throughout the city of Bristol, through Connecticut, and our nation. While the gunman sought to divide and spread hate, Connecticut came together in the aftermath to show strength and love. Bristol Mayor Jeff Caggiano is joining Municipal Voice to talk how Bristol can move forward and honor the fallen officers. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Gateway and Housatonic Community Colleges. Municipal Voice is the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities podcast in collaboration with WNHH 103.5 FM. I'm your host, Matt Ford. As always, be sure to give us a like and let us know what you're thinking in the comments. CCM's Municipal Voice podcast continues to present a key forum on important state and local issues. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect consensus views of CCM or member municipal leaders. Mayor, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So we talk about difficult subjects here on the Municipal Voice, but none quite as difficult as what happened recently in Bristol. I think first we want to thank you, Mayor, for coming on to talk about this because we feel it's important for town leaders and members of the public to understand how difficult this job can truly be.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't necessarily want to go through all the details. You know, it's been in the national news all over the place, so everyone kind of knows what happened. But how did you find out, and what was going through your mind as things were unfolding that day?
Yeah, it was a difficult day. October 12th, late in the evening, 11:30ish, I heard directly from Chief Gould that we had a shooting. At that point, he knew that that was a tragic event. Didn't know the details of it, but was going to the scene and wanted to let me know that this was happening. And it unfolded very quickly for them. I can't imagine them going through this. On the other side, though, it was difficult for me as a city leader as well. I was not called to the scene, nor would I wanted to go to the scene, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I was getting information from the news media, from Facebook, from other places throughout the course of the entire night. And because the chief was so busy, not only going to the scene, but then being deployed to each of the officers' homes to notify the families, I didn't hear from him again until about 5 o'clock in the morning. So it was a long night, very difficult time with a lot of unknowns.
Yeah. I mean, as mayor, did you ever think you would have to respond to something like this?
Never. I mean, nobody could dream up of something like this. And these, shootings happen, bad things happen. But the circumstances behind this is definitely beyond the pale of what people could ever imagine. And, to lose one officer is horrible, to lose maybe a firefighter, and these things happen in the normal course of duty. But something like this incident itself, with the circumstances behind it, it being an ambush and two officers, is clearly something that rocked. I think that's what Chief Gould said that morning. It rocked the city of Bristol and certainly rocked the state as well.
Definitely. So as mentioned before, because of, the internet, social media, people find things out very quickly, but, often, before maybe even the details or the facts are all out. How did your office and or the police department handle the dissemination of information?
Yeah, we were just before this talking about an emergency plan and how we get information out. But, we have a pretty lean mayor's office. So this really came through myself and the police chief. That's it. So, we had our plan and our communication plan, and we got that out as quickly as we could. In cases like this, which is a relatively new legislation, as part of the police accountability bill, and I don't want to comment politically on that, but as part of it, any officer involved shooting goes right to the Office of Investigator General, and there's a special prosecutor and team that takes over this investigation. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, when I got a call back from Chief Gould, I was told, okay, we're going to have a press conference at 8. And the state police came in and pretty much took over the entire investigation and a lot of the specifics about the case. And we do know that within 96 hours, they had to release the video to determine whether this was a justified shooting or not. And we did get that release of it, but the investigation is still ongoing, and it's run by the state and the state police.
Shooting attacks, are all too common, unfortunately, in our country right now. In fact, that same week that the incident happened in Bristol, another off-duty officer was killed in a shooting in Raleigh, North Carolina. Is it possible to prepare for something as tragic as this?
Yeah, I don't really think so. I mean, you can think about what you might say or do, and I think it's one of those things that once it hits your community, you just need to react and to stay as positive as you can, keep the community together,
Yeah,
inform people the best that you possibly can, and it's one day at a time that you take this. I know that
yeah,
policing in itself in the state of Connecticut is a difficult situation because
yeah.
most communities are struggling to get officers right now, to have
Mhm.
people working in that line of duty.
Yeah.
This certainly is not going to help that cause, I don't think, because there's probably going to be some fears. But on the other hand,
Mhm.
maybe there will be people that will want to step forward and serve because of this incident.
Yeah, there's always those brave individuals that are willing to step forward and serve. But yes, obviously Connecticut does have an ongoing sort of shortage of officers in a lot of towns.
Yeah.
You are listening to the Municipal Voice on WNHH 103.5 FM. Do you have any advice specifically for other mayors or first selectmen in the wake of this tragedy and how to prepare themselves?
Yeah, I think one of the things to be prepared for and do is to have a crisis management plan,
Hmm.
or at least know who those key people are
Hmm.
to contact. As a matter of fact, it was kind of serendipitous for me. The month prior, through our regional COG, we're
Hmm.
part of the NV COG. We actually met uh, uh, Judge Devlin, who's in
Hmm.
charge of these events, and they gave us the information. So it wasn't a surprise to me when I found out that there was an officer involved shooting that it was going to be handled by the state. So I think
Hmm.
knowing that ahead of time is helpful. Having a plan and knowing who the key players are within your city
Yeah.
that you pull together would be great. I mean, we have also, in this circumstance, because it is so unusual, is we
Hmm.
hired an outside consultant for just a month to help us with crisis management,
Yeah.
communications, and setting up interviews and things of that sort.
Yeah, obviously this particular case has a lot of media attention, so that sort of thing is
Exactly.
required. But it sounds like in general, you would advise, have that plan in place, have it ready because, it could be something like this, unfortunately, or it could be any sort of emergency situation. But having that plan where you know who the people are and whatever kind of set you up to hit the ground running when this happened.
Exactly. And I think that is the key for us. That's how we move forward, is we're moving forward. We're taking care of every issue as it comes up. We talked a little bit earlier about the police shortage. We weren't in a dire circumstance
Hmm.
prior to this, but obviously losing two officers in one evening and having a third who will be out on disability for a little bit here, and others that came
Yeah,
to that scene, we're in a situation where we're trying to take a little more drastic measures to get some certified officers to come work
yeah,
for us immediately. So these are the types of things that you can do to continue to move forward.
yeah.
You got to control the things you can control, and you certainly can't go back and remove this situation or make it go away. But you need to make sure that the city continues to move on, and that's what we're
Yeah.
trying to do.
Yeah, and we mentioned, in a city the size of Bristol, being down three officers on your force, aside from the tragedy, is also a noticeable change to your force. It is trying to
Yeah.
replace those positions is a big deal.
Yeah, and thank goodness, by the way, too, that the way that public safety network is, from fire, police, EMS,
Hmm.
dispatchers, you name it, there is a great brotherhood and sisterhood. So we've had a lot of mutual aid from other towns, people,
Yeah,
officers that are coming in off duty to help serve shifts and to guide us, and especially in the immediate wake of the tragedy, we had officers
yeah,
from outside of town fully covering during the funeral and other times where our officers couldn't. So that's a short-term fix,
yeah,
and great that happens. But we are getting to the point where we got to move beyond that and
yeah,
make sure that we get some certified officers on board.
yeah. And that was warming to see that, in the wake of this, other departments in the state helped and offered support. How did that happen? How did they coordinate that? Did they other chiefs talk to your chief sort of situation?
Yep. Yeah, certainly. I think those connections are made. We're very fortunate. Chief Gould was actually just recognized 2 months ago
Mhm.
from the State Police Chiefs Association as one of the top chiefs in the state, and he's been great. But he has that network. He brought in people to help him, and then people volunteered. By the way, they came by the dozens. We had people from all over the state, and not just the surrounding towns, but these are people that drove from down in Fairfield County and all over to come and help our officers. It was truly an amazing thing for me to witness on how much generosity people had all over the place.
Yeah, I know it drew support from far and wide. There were, reports of organizations that were hoping to pay off the mortgages for the affected families and setting up funds. Now, how did that make you feel, knowing that there would be support for the families from outside, that Bristol wasn't alone in this?
I think, that Bristol strong mentality, very similar to what we saw in Boston strong, not all that long ago, came through. And, we have seen, speaking of the donations, we've seen mortgages get paid off. We've seen a local real estate lobby firm that helped with money for housing expenses, hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in from a bunch of different funds, and then 2 official funds set up by local police department individuals together are probably getting close to $1 million worth of donations from people. And there's ongoing benefits and ongoing events that are happening, which is really heartwarming. And for me, at least takes that one big thing off the table, mainly for the families, right? There's nothing that's going to bring these officers back. But if they don't have to worry about finances, healthcare, and things of that sort, that's a little bit of a saving grace.
Yeah. It's hard to find any sort of light amongst all this tragedy, but, the city of Bristol stepping up and honoring, that display of love must have been very comforting, I think.
It is. And it continues, by the way, and I'll throw a challenge out to everybody across the state. The city of Bristol probably right now is somewhere in the neighborhood of 50% lit up blue, where people have gotten blue lights and lit their houses blue. And through the holiday season, we kind of have this challenge to keep this going and keep Bristol strong, to see if we can get that closer to 75 or 80% of the households having blue decorations through the holiday season. So that, I think, is helpful not only for the individual Bristol residents, but anybody that drives through Bristol, any police officer or first responder that sees that. I think that's a very comforting thing. And that's something that can help all of the police departments throughout the state. So I hope that others, towns and cities, take my challenge to go ahead and see if we can light the town blue.
Well, we'll certainly hope that they do. At the end of the day, the question that we all want to ask, but maybe even the hardest question, is, are there ways, how do you prevent tragedies like this from ever happening again? Do you think it's possible?
It may or may not be. I have chosen not to get too deep into the political aspects of this, from the police accountability bill to gun control to all of that, because there's one basic thing that resonates with me, is there is a mental health crisis in this country. And I've always said this, that, Bristol is kind of a in between of a big city and a small town. And realistically, my thought process, and I think most people agree with me, is that this could have happened anywhere. And it's not something that is going to get fixed by an overarching new law or statute that goes into place. We have a lot of those things into place. This is really a mental health crisis. In order for something this horrific, this horrible to happen, there has to be a deep set issue. And actually, it was kind of interesting. I got to do roll call for all the officers as they were coming back after their first service. And I did put it this way. I said, there's 3 main things that they look to when they go out to serve and protect the community, and they run into dangerous situations for strangers. Is they have to have one of 3 things, hopefully all 3 things working for them. It's faith, family, and friends. And it resonated. It kind of stuck with them. But I think our family needs to recognize that things are awry with people, and that's why these shootings are happening in multiple places, as you talked about, Raleigh, North Carolina the next day. And, we can go look in the news and there'll be another one somewhere else. For me, I think that focus on support systems and supporting people through faith, family, and friends is something that could resonate and hopefully could help.
Looking ahead, how does a town like Bristol heal from something like this?
Yeah, I think that's just a time factor, and people are very different. So some people heal quicker than others. I think one of the things that's been helpful that I noticed directly from our local police officers, right, the ones that are most directly impacted, the many of these who witnessed the horrific event, uh, getting back to normal, getting into the swing of things again. And as one of our officers put it, getting back on the horse as quickly as possible is definitely something that can help. And so I think we all need to get into our routines. We all need to get back to the definite routines of our life that will help us to cope with this, because it's unthinkable, it's unimaginable, it's not anything that we can fathom and or explain.
So one thing we always like to do on the show is try to end on a positive note, and
Yep.
even on a show like this, there's always room for that. So are you optimistic about the future? What gives you hope about the community of Bristol?
There's a couple things. First, I will say that we have two funds that were set up, Fund the First and the Bristol Police Heroes Fund. The fact that we're nearing, I would say, $1 million of donations there, and by the way, there's other donations, there's other things that have happened, that gives me hope. People were affected by this, and they all want to help, and they all want to do something. And I think we need to just try to keep carrying that on and keep highlighting the fact that there is a lot of good on the other side of this evil. The other thing that I will say, and this is unfortunate, but this is my job now as mayor as we start to heal and move forward, is Bristol is a little bit of a shining star in this state. I will say that I inherited a pretty good situation. We're fiscally responsible city, fully funded pension plan. We have a downtown revitalization effort that is really on the precipice of exploding. Yeah. And if we can continue to make those good things happen and have Bristol increase in its value to the current people that live here, and hopefully attract a lot of new people downtown in particular, I think that'll be a very interesting story in the next year. And so, that's what I was heavily focused on before this incident. And now that we're getting past some of the emergency and crisis situation, it's time to move Bristol forward in that direction.
Looking to those brighter days ahead.
Yeah.
Well, Mayor Caggiano, thank you so much for speaking with us today. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me. I went to my first CCM meeting and group together. It's a great group of CEOs throughout the state. Look forward to working closely together with all of them to make great things happen for the state.
We'd like to thank our guest, Mayor Caggiano. We'd like to thank our sponsors at Gateway Community College and Housatonic Community College. Learn more at gatewayct.edu and housatonic.edu. The Municipal Voice is a co-production by CCM and WNHH 103.5 FM. Kevin Maloney is our executive producer, Christopher Gilson is our producer, Mary Draws is on the boards, and I'm Matt Ford, your host. Be sure to check out our Facebook page and give us a like, and watch out for our CCM chat series on our YouTube page.